Today's stuff we're going to be learning is Nazir, Daf Mem Zayin. I will already say that we're getting toward the end of the Masechet, Siyum in the horizon. So the Siyum details will go out hopefully later this week, but the Siyum will be on Thursday, March 30th. Okay, a week before Pesach. It shows how soon Pesach is coming. Okay. Today's stuff is sponsored by Gershon, Jack, Rivka, Itzik, Yoni, Rafi, and Tammy in honor of Naomi Cohen's birthday. We are so proud and inspired by your dedication to and love of Torah. Mazel tov. Okay. One other thing, I just want to thank Rabbanit Leah Sarner for 2 out of 3 shiurim for the beginner's guide to Gemara, part 2, which happened last night and or yesterday afternoon, wherever you are. If you haven't yet joined, you can still join. There's 3 classes. You can join the 3rd class, even if you didn't join the first 2, and then you can always catch up on them. So thank you. Did I say the wrong daf? Sorry. Daf Mem Tet. Nazir Mem Tet. Guess I said it wrong. Okay. Mem Tet. Let's get started. Yesterday, we had a whole set of drashot by Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, different drashot on how we darshan these words by the Nazir. Right, la'aviv, li'imo, la'achiv, la'achoto. Okay, what we needed all them for, the only agreement they had was on the achoto. Right, if you remember, Rabbi Akiva specifically, when we're dealing with him today, Rabbi Akiva darshan, la'aviv u'li'imo, he used to teach, la'aviv u'li'imo, you can't become impure, but you can become impure to make mitzvah. And then la'achiv, to his brother, taught you that the Nazir, let's say you're both a kohen gadol and a Nazir. Well, in that case, you also are allowed to become tamei to a mitzvah. So now we have a question on Rabbi Akiva, which is very complicated. The Mefarshim have a lot of difficulty with what exactly this question is, because even if it seems to be the difficulty, the answer doesn't really answer the question. So I'll put it out there right now that this is going to be difficult, this question, what exactly it means. There's a bunch of different interpretations. I'll kind of bring a few, but you might end up more confused than we started. In the end, you'll see the answer and you'll understand the answer. It's not so complicated to understand, but it doesn't seem to exactly be addressing the question, and how we perceive Rabbi Akiva after this is a little bit complicated, but we'll start with all that introduction. We'll get started and we'll see. Rabbi Akiva, mifti lo shna kohen gadol l'chude v'lo shna kohen gadol v'hu nazir nafka mila'achiv. Remember we said kohen gadol by himself, or really, what did we say a few lines before? That since he says la'achiv comes to exclude or comes to say, if you're a kohen gadol and you're a nazir, you can actually become impure to a mitzvah. And it sounds like what the question is, then you don't really need la'aviv u'li'imo to tell you if it's just, now the question is it a nazir or a kohen, kohen gadol he's referring to. The pshat sounds like the question's on the kohen gadol. What do you need kohen gadol to say la'aviv u'li'imo lo yitameh? Okay, because if you already have kohen gadol who is also a nazir can become impure to a mitzvah, obviously, right? When it says la'aviv by kohen gadol, if you want to say that means la'aviv, he can't become impure, but he can become impure to a mitzvah, or limo, right? Then you don't really need those words, because obviously, if he's got 2 things on his head, both a nazir and a kohen gadol, and he can become impure to a mitzvah, obviously, if he only has 1. So it's possible this is asking specifically on the kohen gadol psukim and the aviv imo and the kohen gadol psukim, or it could be, and Tosfot reads it this way. You look at where it's bolded, la'aviv u'li'imo din nazir lamali. Why do you need aviv and imo by nazir? Is possibly the question. Tosfot says it doesn't really matter which the question is. It's the same either way, because if you're just a nazir versus nazir and kohen gadol, or if you're just a kohen gadol versus nazir and kohen gadol, either which way, they're both really unnecessary. And the problem with saying kohen gadol is we already said it's free for the gzera shava. We learned the whole gzera shava with the zava, that you can become impure to a zav or a zava or a leper. So again, all of these ways of reading it are a little bit complicated. But basically, what they really want to get at, and what you're going to see the answer is saying, is what's unique in aviv versus imo? The question doesn't seem to be why do you have these verses at all, but more so, and if you remember, Rabbi Akiva darshan from those verses the din of mitzvah. But the answer is going to seem to be really talking about the fact that we can't become impure to them, the simple reading. So there's a lot of confusion here about what's going on. In any case, we'll read the answer and we'll see what he does with what the answer is. And then maybe we can try to look back and understand the question better. But again, the question is still kind of complicated to figure out. To which he says, so the Gemara answers, what do we need aviv? And really what they seem to be addressing is, why does you need aviv and imo? And particularly it seems about not necessarily the mitzvah issue, which is the drasha that Rabbi Akiva had on them, but really about them themselves. Why do you have to be told a Nazir can't become impure to his mother and to his father? You would think if you say father, it would obviously include mother. If you'd say mother, it would obviously include father. Not so. And here we get to some interesting differences between father and mother. Srifat, ikatav aviv. If it just said father, you can't become impure to, you would have thought, a father, we're never really sure who the father is. Right? There's no way to prove who the father is. So because of that, I always laugh and say the reason my kids all look like my husband is so no one should ever doubt, because they don't look anything like me. But they basically say here, it's just a chazaka. Now, why is it what's a chazaka, first of all? A chazaka is, we assume it's the father, because I'm married to my husband, so presumably the children are his. What exactly chazaka is it based on? Well, they say, rov be'ilot etzel ba'ala, okay? A woman, most of the assumption should be all, but at least, even if not, the assumption is most of her be'ilot, of her relations are with her husband, right? It's the more standard, obvious would be the case. So basically, we don't know for 100% whether the father is the real father of this Nazir. Because of that, since we have a bit of a doubt about it, we could say maybe that's why. If it just said, don't become impure to your father, we would have said, okay, we get why you can't become impure to your father, because maybe it's really not your father. We don't have 100% proof. Avalimo, the yadin the yalidate, but the mother, we know she gave birth to you, right? At least there was probably a midwife and some people around to be able to prove that. Litamela, so maybe you could become impure to your mother because it's a much more definitive connection. So now let's say, Pasuk just said mother, and we already just said, if it's your mother, you can't become impure to, even though you're obviously connected to her. You would think maybe the father, right? Obviously, you wouldn't become impure to, but still they're going to say there's logic to say otherwise. Maybe your mother you can't become impure to. Because the children don't go after the mother. Okay, what does this mean? So first of all, we know for issues of Jewishness they do, right? And this is based on what we just said, because we're sure that she's the mother. That has something to do with why Jewishness follows the mother. But Aviv, Kevanda Amar Mal, Lemishbechotam lebeit avotam. But what happens in Judaism? Your tribe, right? Whether you're a Kohen, a Levi, Yisrael, which tribe you belong to in those days was more significant. All of that follows the father, because it says, according to their mishpachot, their families, lebeit avotam, according to their father's name. Children get their father's name. So ema l'tamile, maybe that means you're closer to the father because you get called in his name, and basically your future generations are no longer going to be called in your mother's name. So maybe that shows you're less connected to your mother, and maybe so your mother you can't become impure to, but maybe your father you could be. Therefore, right, ema l'tamile, you might have thought you could become tamile to your father. Therefore, from here we prove that that's why you need aviv and that's why you need imo. So now you see how the question doesn't exactly answer. Because if we stick with the drasha of Rabbi Akiva, let's say we say the question's on Nazir, and we stick with the drasha of Rabbi Akiva that Nazir teaches you beit mitzvah, aviv and imo teaches you beit mitzvah, and that you can be v'tamid to a beit mitzvah. Kohen gadol, the achiv teaches you, the brother pasuk teaches you, even if you're a Nazir and a kohen gadol, you've got two, you could be v'tamid to a beit mitzvah. This whole thing doesn't really come to show you can be v'tamid to a beit mitzvah. It really is showing you, right, aviv and imo, like it sort of seemed to be saying in the beginning, you don't even need the drasha of mitamihu l'beit mitzvah. So then when it says, so what did you need aviv and imo? Maybe it's coming to say, it doesn't come to teach you beit mitzvah. Maybe we need to cross that out on the chart. And I didn't want to do this because I'm not really sure how it plays out, what this really means. But it could be that just like we rejected the drasha by Rabbi Yishmael, that it's teaching you beit mitzvah, and in the end he learned it from Achiv, Rabbi Akiva also maybe in the end only learns it from Achiv, because Achiv teaches you Nazir and Kohen Gadol, obviously then just a plain Nazir, it would basically override the rules of beit mitzvah. You'd be able to become coming to a beit mitzvah. And maybe Aviv and Imo just come to teach you the basic laws of don't become impure to them, and you needed both because you might have thought one or the other, right? You might have thought each one maybe you could and not the other, and that's why you need both. So in the end, really what it's coming to teach you is why do you need both Aviv and Imo? What question it's exactly addressing, we don't know 100%. Get that this week, which isn't up yet, but will be up later this morning, is a very interesting in-depth analysis of this differences between relations with mothers and relations with fathers, and some interesting, not in terms of, the reality on the street nowadays, but more so what the commentaries did with it, because a really important question is asked, the Rabbanit El Shimoni goes into, which is, what if, or not what if, why isn't this principle of the father and the fact that we don't know for sure who the father is, why is it not applicable in other circumstances? For example, if you hit your father, you get the death penalty. Now, if it's not sure whether he's really your father, then why would you get the death penalty? Why don't we say it's just a chazaka that it's your father? Why do we assume we know it's your father and we're going to punish you and put you to death? Right? Normally, we don't put someone to death unless it's 100%, and this isn't 100%. So why is it a factor in this topic and not in other topics? And anyway, there's some interesting sources about differences between relations with mothers and relations with fathers that definitely a worthwhile listen. Okay, so first question, again, we're not exactly sure what the question is, but the answer really explains to us the differences between why you might have thought if you have father, you wouldn't necessarily assume mother, you can't become impure to, and if you have mother, you wouldn't necessarily assume father, you can't become impure to. And that's why we needed both to say you can't become impure to either. Next question on Rabbi Akiva, and with here we'll finish this section. If you remember, Rabbi Akiva darshaned al nefesh meit lo yavo by the Nazir. Nefesh taught you non-relatives, and mate taught you relatives. And that's why he already had the relatives, and Aviv Imo were free to teach something else, even though right now we might have just changed that. But now, by the kohen gadol, it also says a very similar pasuk. And the question is, what does he darshan from that? Al kol nafshot meit lo yavo. What do we do with the pasuk that the kohen gadol cannot become impure to kol? Notice kol here is, there it just said nefesh mate. Here it adds the word kol, any, or all, and nafshot, it's in plural, there it was singular, and mate. What are we going to darshan? We need 3 drashot basically, al-kol, nefashot, and mate. So this time, instead of learning nefesh to teach you rechokim, non-relatives, in this case, they're going to learn it from al-kol, because kol is this very inclusive term. So, Lamali, what do you need this for? Turning already to Amud Bet, it's a pretty short doc today. Al-kol la'afuke rechokim, so al-kol is this very inclusive term, which includes he cannot become impure to anyone, meaning non-relatives. Mate, a dead person, la'afuke krovim, because if it's not coming for non-relatives, it must be coming for something else, to say even relatives, because again, kohen hedyo, we have this distinction. By kohen gadol, we don't, and that's, you need a special drasha to teach us that. Nafshot, what do we do with this word nafshot? And notice, like I said, not only, right, it appears there also, but here it has already, it has plural. Why is it in plural form when before it was singular? And also, if we already learned al-kol to teach you non-relatives, what's this word going to teach you? La'afuke, to teach you a different halakha. Revi'itam she'atza mishnei metim shemetameh ba'oel shenemar al-kol nafsho meit lo yavo. We saw this before in the Revi. We had all those cases with the Revi. So a quarter log of blood, okay? A quarter log of blood. What do we say about a quarter log of blood? Quarter log of blood is generally metame in an oil. If there's, let's say, a pile of blood, that's a quarter log. Then, okay, what's a quarter log? We could talk. We're going to get to shiurim in a minute. So let's just talk about kav, log. Okay, a log is a quarter of a kav. Okay, now a kav is a 1/6 of a se'ah. So basically that means it's a 24th of a se'ah. Okay, that's a whole log, which is a log is actually 6 eggs. Okay, so if you want to get like an idea of the size, a log is 6 eggs. So this would be a quarter of that. Okay, a kav is 24 eggs. So that's why this is, okay, that's the measurement. And a log is a 1/6 of that. So that's why it's 6 eggs. So now, sorry, that was not right. No, sorry, a log is a quarter of a kav. That makes sense. And that's why it's 6 eggs. Okay, so I was getting confused because the kav is a 1/6 of a se'ah and the log is a quarter of a kav. You don't necessarily have to memorize all these measurements. There's charts that tell you them if you ever want to know them and measure them out. So now, since we had time today, I went into what they are. So now they say Revi dam, which now we assume a Revi dam is mitame. Okay, you have Revit's worth of blood, a quarter of a log of blood, that's mitame in an oah. But what the nefashot make comes to teach you is, you might have thought, and some people do disagree and think that it's only from one dead body or revit log is mitame. But if it's from two different bodies, it's like not enough from either one to actually be tameh. But comes Rabbi Akiva, according to this, and darshans from nefashot, that you could have two nefashot together if the amount of blood from two bodies adds a dead body, adds up to, again, we're only talking about blood from a dead body, adds up to a quarter of a log, that's mitame also. That's his halacha. So far, we did two things on Rabbi Akiva. One, what does he do with Aviv and Imo? What are the differences between relationships between fathers and mothers? And what do we do with Al-Kol Nefashot Meit Lo Yavo? We saw three drashot, Rechokim, Krovim, right? Non-relatives, relatives, and also this law about Revi, down from two different bodies, adding up to a measurement that will actually create impurity in a tent. This is just a general rule about laws of impurity. Now we get to a new Mishnah. From here, we're going to get into all sorts of laws of Tumah and Tara for the next number of dapim. Okay? Get ready. So we're now going to have a list. We're going to have two Mishnayot, one today, and one is actually on Nun Daled, which is the Shabbos daf, which is going to be about two different sets of Tumah, okay, impurity. The first one is going to be the impurity that basically causes a Nazir. If the Nazir becomes Tameh in one of these ways, he's going to have to shave, purify himself, right? Sprinkle the paraduma waters, which we just read on Shabbat and Parshat Parah, right? Sprinkle the paraduma waters on day 3 and day 7, go to the mikvah on day 7 in the morning. He shaves on day 7. Then on he waits for sunset to be actually pure. On day 8, he brings sacrifices, and then he starts counting again. If you remember, all the days he was impure before fall, right? They basically get erased, and he has to start his nezirut, or she has to start her nezirut all over again. So what type of impurity is going to cause all that to happen? The next Mishnah, we're going to get to two other categories of impurity. One that's going to have zero effect on any of this, okay, any of these laws. But the middle is going to have somewhat of an effect, but not a complete effect. Okay, we're going to see, for example, it doesn't cancel your days, but you have to stop and you have to purify yourself, and those days don't count, right? It's like an in-between. Okay, you don't shave. So it's this in-between situation. But today we're going to learn about the ones that are completely the classic case of Nazir becoming Tameh. Al elu tumot Nazir megalech. For the following things a Nazir will have to shave. Al hamet, if you become impure to a dead body. Al kizayit min hamet. Okay, if you become impure even to just a kizayit of a dead body. Okay, an olive bulb. So here we have, right? What this means is there's flesh from the dead body, the size of an olive bulb. We're going to see in a minute that all these things are mitame in 3 ways. Either, I want to get to this and explain it first so you understand, either maga, by touching, masa, by carrying or moving, which means I could maybe not touch it, but move it. Right? Like, for example, if it's on a tray and I move it, and then I made it move even though I didn't actually touch it, that's carrying. And because obviously if it's carrying with touching, that would already be touching, you wouldn't need carrying. And ohel is if I'm in a tent, right, or a house with that, because I made in this house, I will become impure. Okay, ohel also is, if I'm above it, if I'm outside and I'm above it, all these kind of impurities of tent. So now they say the following. So either a dead body, or even just a kizayit of a dead body, an olive bulb, al kizayit netzel, a kizayit of liquid that comes from a dead body, either liquids that come out of the dead body, or more so, it's usually the body sometimes over time will disintegrate or heat up with something, and liquids might turn into liquid, some of the flesh. So it would have to be a kizayit of this liquid. Al melot tarvad rakav. Tarvad is some sort of a spoon or ladle. Okay, it's not exactly clear to us what size it is, but it's a certain measurement of rakav. Rakav is rotted parts from the dead body, which basically it's more like a dust or like a powder that comes from, from the body disintegrating. So we have 2 types of disintegrations. One is a liquid form and one is in a dust kind of form. Va'ala shidra va'ala gulgolet. Okay, if you have the backbone, the vertebrae, or the gulgolet, or the skull. Some people think it's actually, you need both of these. Some people say it's one or the other, because these are important parts of the body. Okay, so if you just have, let's say, the bones of this, but it's a complete section of either, right, the central part of the body or the spinal column, the spinal column or the skull, that's enough to pass on impurity. We mean here where there's no flesh on it. If there was flesh, it would already be kazayit minamet, right? But let's say there's not a kazayit's worth of flesh. Al ever minamet, you take a limb from a dead body, okay, again, complete limb, or ever minachai sheyesh ala basar karaoi. If a limb was cut off from a live person, that in itself carries impurity under the condition that it still has enough flesh. What's enough flesh? Enough flesh that if it were still attached to the body, it would heal itself, it would scab. So if it would scab, if it was on the body, and now there's enough that it would, right, that if had it been attached to the body, it would scab there, there's enough skin to actually create a scab, then, and it's now off the body with that amount of flesh, that would be mitame also. Al chatzi kav atzamot va'al chatzi log dam. These are the most problematic words of this Mishnah. Half a kav of bones and half a log of blood. Now before, what did we say? It was a quarter log of blood, and it's actually a quarter kav of bones. That's generally mitame. So this Mishnah, okay, we're going to see that the quarter log and the quarter kav of bones is in the next Mishnah, in the other category, not in this category. And that's a very strange thing, because we would have thought generally a quarter log of blood is mitame. So why is it a half a log here? It seems very weird. Okay, so we have two possible answers. Tosfot says, Shiurim halacha l'Moshe Sinai. If you look at Tosfot Dibor Matchil Chatzi Logam, okay, he says, Apapisha mitame ba'ol b'revid, as it says in the Mishnah Oalot, which is very clear. Why is this? Because Shiurim halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Okay, the reason is there's no reason, right? That's basically like saying we don't know why. Okay? So he basically says, well, on the one hand, Tuma generally by Torah law is quarter log of revid and quarter kav of bones. Okay, remember, one is talking about the blood of the dead body and one is talking about bones from the dead body. That's why they're different shiurim. Okay, but generally by Torah law, quarter log of this and a quarter kav of that is mitame. And therefore, comes Tosfot and says, I have no choice but to say the fact that the Nazir is not megalech on this is just an oral tradition and there's nothing we can say for it. The Rambam actually says something different. The Rambam, not in Nazir, but by Tumat Meit in general, okay, laws of halakhot Tumat Meit, chapter 3, verse 3, halacha 3, he says the following. He lists all the things from the next Mishnah, which we haven't yet gotten to, okay, or a bunch of those things like kolel, dofek, okay, I'm not going to get into them all. And then he says, Rova atzamot ba'oel, v'tumat revi dam, okay, these shiurim that I just told you, that according to Tosfot or Torah law, they're just, the Nazir just doesn't shave for them. The Rambam says, Yera'eli, notice his words, it seems to me that the revi and the Rova kav, which are mitame, ba'oel, shekulan tumatan einon din Torah. They must be derabanan, because if they were Torah law, they would be in this Mishnah. And the fact that they're not in this Mishnah, he basically uses our proof. Let's go see nezirut, laws of nezirut, and you'll see that the Nazir doesn't shave for these. So it must mean that they're only rabbinic law. So even though this is such a base known halakha that revi dam is mitame and an oel, and a rova kav atzamot is mitame and an oel, there's this main debate about whether it's d'oraita or d'rabbanan, and it's based on our Mishnah. Okay, the right. So again, Tosfot, who assumes those are all d'oraita, like you would have assumed had you not seen this Mishnah, says, okay, the fact that the Nazir doesn't shave for them is some unique halacha, some tradition. But the Rambam says, what do you mean? The fact that the Nazir doesn't shave must mean that it's only rabbinic, because the whole next set of, right, what we're going to see in the next Mishnah seem to be, at least most of them are only rabbinic laws. So the Rambam says that must prove that Revi Dam is only rabbinic. Okay, and that's why he says, he thinks this line we're going to say right now, Kol tum'ah minamet, this is the Rambam, she'ein hanazir megalech aleha eina din Torah. He basically assumes that anything the Nazir doesn't shave for must be Tumah d'Rabbanan. And therefore he thinks that Revi Dam and Rova Kav Atzamot must be d'Rabbanan, which is a very interesting halacha, and that all comes from our Mishnah. So it's just interesting to see. Okay, and like I said, Tosfot disagrees and gives a different reason why the Nazir doesn't shave for it, which again isn't an easy answer. It's just it's an answer like we pick up our hands and say we don't really know why, but it just is. Okay, so now all these things that we listed. So again, let's just quickly review. a dead body, olive bulk of it from a dead body, this kazayit of the liquid, the ladle full of the rotted part of the body, the shidra, the spinal column, the gulgolet, the skull, apart from a dead, right, a limb from a dead body, a limb from a live body that has enough basar and it has enough flesh to basically heal itself, to scab. Okay, the half a kav of bones and the half a log of blood. Okay, all these, the Nazir is going to have to shave and go through the whole process, and we're going to see all the things he has to do at the end of this Mishna, which I already kind of told you, but we'll see it inside in a minute. If he touches them, if he carries them, or if he's in a tent. One more list on the list. Al etzem keseora, if there's a bone the size of a barley that's not matame in an ohel. Okay, so if there's a teeny little bone in your house, you won't become tameh. But al magao al masao. But if you touch it or you carry that teeny bone, then of a dead body, then you will be tameh. Okay, so everything was maga masa and oil, other than this one law of etzem keseora. Just touching this dead bone bone from a dead body will make you impure or carrying. Al elu hanazir megalech umazeh b'shlishi u'b'shvi'i. So what will the Nazir have to do? He'll have to shave. In addition, he'll have to do the purification process of the red heifer on the 3rd day and the 7th day. Soter et hakodmim. All the early days drop out. It's basically wiped out. Any nezirut you did before is canceled. Eino matchil limnot. And when do you start counting? You don't start counting until ela ad sheyital u'mebeit korbanot, until you become pure and bring your sacrifices. Gemara is going to ask, do we mean day 7 or day 8? They're going to say this clearly must mean day 8. And they're going to prove it from the next Mishnah, which seems to indicate day 7 and has different language. Okay, so if it's a lighter kind of impurity, you'll already start counting on day 7. But if it's this kind of impurity, you're going to start only on day 8 after you've brought your sacrifices. Tanu Rabbanan. Now we start with a story in a braita, which we're only going to get to the full story tomorrow. Tanu Rabbanan. Achal ptirato shel Rabbi Meir. After Rabbi Meir died. Okay, remember Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda are big ba'alei machloket. Rabbi Yehuda, we're talking about not Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, that's Rabbi. We're talking about Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Eli. He's the son of Rabbi Eli. He's the Rabbi Yehuda we see in the Mishnah all the time arguing with Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda was one of the main students of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Meir learned both by Rabbi Akiva and by Rabbi Yishmael. And they, as you see from the story, they were somewhat rivals. Okay, besides you see them arguing all the time in the Mishnah, but it doesn't necessarily mean they were rivals. But here there seems to be some issue going on. So when Rabbi Meir died, Amar lahem Rabbi Yehuda l'talmidav. Now, what generally happens when the rabbi dies? We've seen this before. Many of his students will go learn with the other big gadol hador at the time. So comes Rabbi Yehuda and he says to his students, "Im al yikansu talmidei Rabbi Meir lakan." Do not let his students in the beit midrash. I want you standing as bodyguards by the door. Don't let them in. Mipnei shekantranim hem, because they just want to start up with me. They're troublemakers. They're not going to come here to learn Torah. What they're going to want to do is trip me up on halakhot. That's what they're going to do to me. Now, maybe Sumchus was a big guy. Maybe he was stronger than the others. I don't know. But Sumchus, the main students of Rabbi Meir, was known to be very sharp, pushes his way in, gets into the beit midrash, and Amar lahem, he starts quoting. This is what Rabbi Meir taught me. Al elu tumot Nazir megalech. These are the tumot the Nazir's megalech, and he starts quoting our Mishnah. Now, our Mishnah didn't exist as a Mishnah because Rabbi Yehuda Nasi put together the Mishnah that was later. But we know that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi didn't start writing the Mishnayot. He collected Mishnayot that were out and about. So he starts quoting what he learned from Rabbi Meir, which happens to be the exact language of our Mishnah. Al hamet val kazayit min hamet. Okay, on a dead body, on a kazayit of a dead body. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Yehuda gets very angry and he says, Amarlan, I told you so. Lo kach amarti lachem, did I not tell you? Al yikansu, tell me they Rabbi Meir lakan, mipnei shekantranim. They're troublemakers. They're just trying to make an issue. Al kizayit min hamet megalech, al hamet lo kol sheken. This whole thing that he's saying doesn't make any sense. If you're going to have to shave and cancel your nezirut because of an olive bulk from a dead body, of course, al hamet lo kol sheken. If it's a full dead body, that's way more than a kizayit. Of course, you're going to have to be mechalech. The whole putting in this Mishnah of al hamet is a totally unnecessary phrase. So what we're really getting at here is our Mishnah is problematic, because why did you say, once you say kazayit minamate, well, obviously a full dead body is going to include at least a kazayit. So he gets very angry at this language of the Mishnah, right? He obviously didn't see our printed Mishnah in front of him, because not only was there not a printing press, right, but it wasn't even written down anywhere. But he said, basically, your language of this Mishnah is totally incorrect, and you're just trying to come and make problems here. What happens at the end of this story, we're going to have to wait till tomorrow to see. So in the meantime, this is where we're going to stop. So quick review of today's daf. We started with some questions on Rabbi Akiva. What's this Aviv Nimo? We didn't fully understand the question, but we certainly understood the answer, which was there's differences between father and mother. And in case you thought, if it just said one, maybe you could become impure to the other, had to tell you both, because you really can't become impure to either. And then we said, I'll call him beit by the kohen gadol. What does he do with it? And that we learned rechokim, krovim, right? Non-relatives, relatives, and right from different phrases in that sentence. And nefashot can teach you about Rabbi Yehuda, that comes from 2 dead bodies, would be mitame also. And we said that was a subject of debate, but that's what Rabbi Akiva learns from here. Then we had a whole list of all the things that, again, according to some, means these are the Torah tumas, all the doraita tumas. That's where the Rambam understands our Mishnah. These are all doraita tumas. Doraita tumas basically create the problems for the Nazir. But the Nazir, basically everything we've been learning, tumat mate. This is basically taking everything we've been talking tumat mate. What do we mean when we say tumat mate? And it's either the whole first list, maga, masa, or tent, right? And the second list, which was really only one item, the etzem, is just if you touch it or move it, carry it in some way, you'll be tameh. And all these things create impurity by Torah law that basically caused you to cancel the days, have to recount, to do a purification process, have to bring korbanot, etc. And you'll see it's hard to learn this Mishnah without the next one. The next one's going to give you all kinds of ways of becoming impure that are perhaps, like the Rambam says, only rabbinic, or according to Tosfot, at least just not on this list because of tradition, right? And those are ways where it's going to be slightly different. Okay, the laws are going to be a little bit different. And then in the third case, they're going to be completely different. We'll get to that. And then we started this really interesting story about Rabbi Meir. Upon his death, Rabbi Yehuda was nervous about the students of Rabbi Meir, didn't want them coming in. And then one comes in and barges his way in and then quotes this Mishnah. And basically, Rabbi Yehuda raises a question on it and says something in this Mishnah doesn't make any sense. That's it for today. We'll meet up again tomorrow. See you then.